This is the Trimui Brick. It's the latest retro handheld from Trimui. And as the Trimui Smart Pro is one of my favorite retro handhelds, I'm very excited about this one. So let's check it out. It's RetroGaming. Inside the box you get the Trimui Brick, which is in a vertical design rather than the previous horizontal design, which makes it look more like the original Gameboy to give you that classic retro look. Unlike the Trimui Smart Pro, which I also reviewed on my channel, which has a more modern look. You also get two sets of keycaps so you can set up your preferred back buttons. You get a USB-A to USB-C charge cable and a manual, and on this model you get an aluminium backplate for customization. As for the Trimui Brick, I chose for this black model, but it's also available in other colors. It has a starting price of $79.99 and goes up to $119. In these cases you get an SD card with their stock OS or the new and improved CrossMix OS and some included games. If you want to know the difference between these operating systems, click on the CrossMix OS video at the right top of your screen. Also good to know is that I have a discount code for you in the video description in case you need it. By the way, thanks MechDIY for sending this product to review. Now let's look at the specs. To start, the Trimui Brick has the following dimensions and weight you can see on screen, making it very portable and easy to hold. And it can easily fit inside the pocket of your pants, making it perfect to take with you on the go. As for the materials, the Trimui Brick is made out of plastic and glass and has a 3.2-inch 1024 by 768 fully laminated IPS screen with 8 customizable ambient lights that delivers a clear image that's great for hours of game time. And I really have to say the quality and sharpness on the screen are excellent and the colors really pop. Moving on, the Trimui Smart Brick has an all-winner A133 Plus 1.8 GHz CPU and an Imagination PowerVR GE8300 660 MHz GPU, has 1GB of LPDDR4X RAM, 8GB of eMMC flash, and you can also set up a Wi-Fi connection, which for example you can use to update the Trimui Brick or play online with a friend, has Bluetooth 2.1, it has 2 stereo speakers of 1 watt, which by the way sound pretty decent. Just listen to it for a second. But it also has a 3.5mm headphone jack if you want to connect your headphone for a more private gaming session. And it has a mono microphone. Furthermore, it has a 3000 mAh battery with 5 hours of battery life. It has 5-volt charging through USB Type-C and has support shutdown charging. Optionally, it has an external TF card from 64GB up to 256GB. It has a power button on the side and 4 shoulder buttons with an atmosphere light and an RGB start and select button, which we will talk about in a bit. And getting back to the back buttons, they do work quite well, except for the middle ones, which I had a hard time to reach. It also has a custom event lock switch, and for I/O ports it has a Type-C port at the top and bottom for charging and OTG function. It has a single channel vibration motor for feedback. It has a traditional D-pad and face buttons, which are a bit small but get the job done. And getting back to the 4 shoulder buttons, they have a slight illumination on them and can also be replaced with other caps, like these transparent keycaps, in case you want to have a full illumination on your shoulder buttons. And as mentioned, you can customize the backplate with an aluminium backplate. In case you want one or more of these customizations, here are some prices and I will leave the links for you in the video description. Furthermore, at the front and top you also get some extra lights which you can change in the settings if you want to, which give the Trimui Brick a more modern look. But let's have a look at the menu and some gameplay. Starting with the menu, you get the following tabs: a favorite tab for your favorite games, a recent tab for your recently played games, a best tab which has a collection of popular games like Zelda, Mario, Sonic, Turtle and Vertical games. Then you get a games tab where you have all your emulators from NES to N64, from PSP to PS1, Dreamcast to CPS3, DOS and more. Then you get an apps tab where you have your FM key settings, Moonlight to stream PC games, a media player to watch your own content, USB storage and bootleg, MU Cleaner, File Manager, over-the-air update, an ebook reader, Portmaster for even more games, a randomizer if you don't know which game to play, and you can reboot your device right here. You also get RetroArch and a scraper for your box art, a screen recorder, system tools, a terminal and even a user guide. And you can go to the system settings where you have even more settings at your disposal. So let's check out some gameplay, starting from low end to higher end games, at least sort of. When opening one of the emulators, you get a long list of games with a small box art. Booting is pretty quickly, and as you can see, Game Boy games look, play and sound excellent. It brings you right back to your childhood, but with a better image quality. Same goes for when playing Game Boy Advance games, where you can see Wario looks and plays wonderfully and arguably better than on the original Game Boy Advance. And here we have Mega Man 2 from the NES. It's another low emulation game that works very well. I remember playing this game a lot when I was a kid, so it's great that I can replay it again as an adult. Moving on to Mario Kart on the SNES, and I have to say this is maybe one of my favorite games of all time. And maybe it's yours as well. It looks, runs and plays excellent on the Trimui Brick. Just take a look at this incredible screen. Then we get to Street Fighter 2 on the CPS2, and as you know, it's where fighting games started, at least for a lot of people. I'm not that good on the CPS2 version, which is a bit challenging to me, but I have to say I needed to get used to the small D-pad and face buttons. But somehow I had less issues on it when playing Street Fighter Third Strike on CPS3, which is normally more difficult for me to play. One of the cool things on the Trimui Smart Pro was that you can play vertical shooters. I have to say it doesn't work as well on the Trimui Brick, as it's not too comfortable to hold. Of course, that's not the case on regular games like Sonic the Hedgehog, which is comfortable to play and runs excellent on the Trimui Brick. A little bit higher demanding game is Sega Rally Championship on the Sega Saturn, but as you can see, the Trimui Brick can handle it more than well. The same goes for Mario Kart 64, which runs excellent on the Trimui Brick, and I have to say this is one of the games I will probably play the most on this handheld. Also let me know what you like to play on the Trimui Brick. I'm really curious about that. Now we get to Wave Racer 64, which normally has a lot of issues on other handhelds in terms of sound crackling, but on the Trimui Brick it's only at the beginning of the race. Otherwise, it runs perfectly. Moving on, Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation 1 also runs perfectly, and this is a game that's just made to play on a retro handheld. It's just a lot of fun to play. And the same goes for Tekken 3, which is one of my favorite fighting games of all time, as I've spent so many hours playing this game as a kid. Then we get to the PSP, which is a more high demanding system. Ridge Racer works better on the Trimui Brick than on similar handhelds. However, it's not without any issues, as there are some slight frame drops and sound issues. Even more so on God of War Chains of Olympus. But to be fair, this might be one of the most difficult games to emulate on any retro handheld. Sega Dreamcast games do run quite well, like Crazy Taxi. That's just a lot of fun to play on the go. Racing around town and dropping off customers as fast as you can never gets old. And then we get to one of the Dreamcast's most stunning games, Soul Calibur, which was always a beautiful game and really does shine on the Trimui Brick screen. And as a plus, it also runs quite well. Dead or Alive 2 on the other hand does have some frame and sound issues. It's playable, but I would prefer Soul Calibur on this handheld, as it just performs better and looks equally good or even better. Of course, there is much more you can play on the Trimui Brick, but overall it performs great, and I have to say it's an excellent handheld that takes you on a nostalgic trip through its design and games you can play on it. It has a classic but modern design, and it's perfect to use at home or on the go. So I would say at a starting price of $79.99 or euros, it's decently priced, and even more so with the discount code. If you need that, just use the link and code from the description. And if this video was helpful to you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you need a horizontal model like the Trimui Smart Pro, just click right here to check out the full review. See you there!